Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking some crucial, under-the-radar breaking news for the Dallas Cowboys. Look, I get it. This move isn't exactly grabbing those flashy national headlines. It's not a blockbuster trade or some massive superstar signing, right? But the reality of professional football, it's that these quiet, seemingly minor transactions, while they're often the exact moves that end up deciding games in December. While we all naturally focus on the top 10 players on a 53-man roster, which is totally fair, general managers know the absolute truth. It's the bottom 10 players, those depth pieces and emergency reserves, that usually make the most monumental impact once the regular season actually kicks off. So today we're diving deep into the incredibly strategic signing of offensive lineman Chris Glazer. You know, when we talk about the Cowboys, almost all the attention naturally gravitates right toward the big names. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. I mean, those are the guys dominating the sports tickers every single day. But if you've followed football for any length of time, you know this absolute truth. Championships are won because of the players nobody talks about until they are suddenly forced into action. Star players, they win you the highlights. But those hidden depth players, the guys grinding away in the trenches, totally away from the cameras, they are the actual structural foundation of a championship team. Okay, so here's our roadmap for the deep dive today. First up, the hidden roster emergency. Second, the anatomy of an offensive collapse. Third, enter lineman Chris Glazer. Fourth, the versatility advantage. Fifth, the battle-tested underdog. And finally, training camp survival. Let's get right into the strategy behind this crucial move. Section 1, the hidden roster emergency. So to really understand why Dallas made a move right at the close of mandatory minicamp, we have to look at an unexpected and honestly urgent problem the front office suddenly found themselves staring down. The Cowboys got some highly unfortunate news regarding veteran offensive lineman Matt Hennessy. What initially just looked like a standard, concerning injury situation, it turned into something significantly more serious overnight. Hennessy is expected to undergo neck surgery. Now think about this. For a 300-pound man whose entire job involves violently colliding with other 300-pound men on literally every single snap, a neck injury is notoriously tricky. It instantly created major uncertainty around whether he'd be available at all. And instead of just sitting on their hands, crossing their fingers, and hoping things would miraculously work themselves out, the Dallas front office recognized the severe threat here and acted proactively right then and there. And honestly, they had to act quickly because of the grueling reality of a 17-game marathon. Over the course of 17 games, injuries aren't just a possibility, you guys. They are an absolute 100% inevitability. In fact, in a typical NFL season, almost no offensive line makes it through all 17 games perfectly intact. It's basically a war of attrition out there. NFL coaches literally spend countless hours agonizing over their depth charts, having sleepless nights, because surviving a modern football season makes offensive line depth a completely non-negotiable necessity. You just have to have it. Moving on to Section 2, Anatomy of an Offensive Collapse. Because losing an interior lineman isn't just a minor hiccup, okay? It is a catastrophic threat to the entire team. Just look at this vicious chain reaction. If your starting quarterback gets hurt, everyone notices immediately. But when an offensive lineman goes down and the backup simply isn't ready, you trigger this exact terrifying sequence. First, the O-line integrity breaks. Almost instantly, the running game suffers because there's absolutely no push at the line of scrimmage, and your running back is just getting met in the backfield. With no run threat to respect, what happens? The defense just pins their ears back, and pass protection fails. Then, your franchise quarterback starts taking completely unnecessary, super dangerous hits. The entire timing of the offense breaks down, your talented skill players become totally ineffective, and drives simply stall. It is a complete top-to-bottom structural breakdown. So how do you prevent a complete offensive collapse? How do you stop that terrifying domino effect before it even starts? Well, this is the central high-stakes dilemma that the Cowboys front office had to solve before training camp even kicked off. They needed a very specific insurance policy, and they needed it fast. Section 3. Enter lineman Chris Glazer. Enter the targeted solution to their emergency. At 6'4" and over 300 pounds, Chris Glazer has the exact prototypical physical size and anchor strength that NFL teams are constantly, desperately searching for. But honestly, it's his recent background that's arguably the most compelling part of this whole story. He just played for the Columbus Aviators in the UFL. You see, every single year, a handful of really gritty players use alternative football leagues as an intense live-fire proving ground to show they're ready for the next level. Glazer is one of the latest prime examples of a player brilliantly leveraging the UFL to aggressively earn his way right back onto an NFL radar. But here's what makes the signing so uniquely strategic. It isn't just his massive size or his recent UFL tape. It's the rare advantage of familiarity. Glazer actually spent a brief amount of time within the Cowboys organization in the past. And guys, that familiarity is a massive asset. Learning an NFL playbook isn't just memorizing a few plays. It's like learning an entirely new language while a clock is ticking down. It can literally take months. But because Dallas already evaluated him previously, they know his strengths, they know his weaknesses, they know his character. Most importantly, they bypass that steep learning curve entirely. They can plug him right into the system immediately without missing a single beat. Which brings us to Section 4, the versatility advantage. Glazer brings some specific, highly valuable traits to the field. The absolute ultimate currency for a depth lineman in today's NFL? Positional flexibility. It is the ability to reliably step into multiple roles across the line without the entire offense falling apart. We really have to look at the roster economics here. With only 53 men on an active roster and usually only 46 or 47 actually dressing on game day, versatility is literally survival. You simply cannot afford to have a backup left guard who only knows how to play left guard. The math just doesn't work out. So Glazer operates basically like a human multi-tool. He brings experience at center, experience at guard, and he is highly capable of playing on both the left and right sides of the interior line. I mean, imagine a tight, gritty divisional game in the fourth quarter where a starting guard goes down. Bam, Glazer can step in. Or maybe the backup center suddenly twists an ankle. Glazer can step right in. As injuries naturally pile up late in the season, this kind of Swiss Army knife flexibility gives the coaching staff invaluable options to keep that offensive collapse we talked about earlier from ever seeing the light of day. And this completely ties into the larger philosophy of the current Cowboys coaching staff. They are desperately trying to establish a highly physical identity this year. They want to run the ball consistently, dictate the tempo, and utterly control the line of scrimmage. But the truth is incredibly simple. You cannot build a physical football team if your offensive line depth is weak. You just can't do it. So this signing isn't some random shot in the dark. It's a very deliberate, calculated step to ensure that physical identity doesn't instantly evaporate the second a starter takes a bad hit. Section 5, the battle-tested underdog. We definitely have to talk about his personal journey here because surviving on the fringes of professional football requires just an immense level of mental toughness. I mean, nothing has been handed to this guy. For established, highly drafted stars, the guys with those massive guaranteed contracts, training camp is really just about preparation. It's about getting the timing right, tweaking some mechanics, and honestly, just trying to avoid pulling a hamstring. But for fringe players, undrafted guys or guys fighting their way back from the UFL, training camp is about sheer survival. It's about paying rent in September. They live in this high-stakes, desperate reality where every single day could genuinely be their last day employed in the National Football League. Like iron on an anvil, Glazer brings a mindset that was entirely forged in the UFL. He played aggressively, he embraced incredibly heavy contact, he demonstrated relentless effort on every single snap, just fighting for inches. And let me tell you, that physical approach and that absolute refusal to quit, those are exactly the traits that earn instant, undeniable respect inside an NFL locker room. The constant roster movement, the brutal uncertainty, the pressure. It either breaks a player completely or it makes them stronger. For Glazer, it has clearly made him battle-ready. Moving to our final section, Section 6, Training Camp Survival. The stage is now officially set for intense evaluations. Because right now, even with his contract signed, absolutely nothing is guaranteed. The coaching staff is going to be scrutinizing every single drill with a magnifying glass. These are the exact questions they're asking themselves. How quickly does he learn the nuances of the playbook? How well does he confidently communicate line calls? How consistently does he perform day after grinding day? How does he handle the immense pressure of live drills? And crucially, how does he respond immediately after a bad rep? Does he crumble and feel sorry for himself, or does he bounce right back for the next play? But Glazer does have one massive, undeniable ace up his sleeve right out at the gate. He arrives totally battle-tested. Look, there is a massive, unmistakable difference between running sprints and shorts on a high school track in June and actively taking 50 full-speed collisions against grown men. Unlike players who have been resting their bodies away from live competition for months, Glazer has recent, meaningful live football snaps. He's been hitting. He is sharp. That vivid live game conditioning provides a critical early advantage when the heavy pads finally come on at camp. Still, we have to remember the margin for error here remains absolutely razor thin. For a player in Glazer's position, the stakes literally could not be any higher. One great week, that can completely change the entire trajectory of a career. It can secure a 53-man roster spot, a lucrative practice squad role, and long-term stability for his family. But one poor week? Yeah, one poor week can end an opportunity forever. That is the harsh, dramatic, and unyielding reality of life on the NFL roster bubble. So we are left with this fascinating question. Will Chris Glazer take this incredible opportunity, utilize his multi-tool versatility and UFL grit, and become one of this training camp's absolute biggest success stories? Or will this simply be another fleeting step in a long, grueling professional journey? The front office recognized a real emergency and they acted proactively to bring him into the building. Now it is entirely in his hands, and it's going to be an incredible battle to watch. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you walk away with a totally new perspective on the hidden mechanics of roster building, and I cannot wait to see how this all unfolds on the field.